And then I'm like, fanciest project bags ever. It is not.
Okay, yeah, so that does have to be muted or it plays back to us. The sound worked last time, so we should be okay. It would be great if I could remember how we used to do this. Welcome back to that knitting show.
Solid, yeah. Yeah, no, don't use that part.
I use all the weird parts.
I know. I can't go anywhere. All right, we're going to start the back the way it was. And you'll just have to miss the little curly parts.
You can draw attention to the curly parts after.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay.
And we coordinate accidentally.
Well, that's actually pretty good without meaning to.
Yeah. Erin just shows up in clothing that matches mine.
Which I couldn't do if I tried, so that's probably a very good thing. That
I'm pretty sure there's cameras around the house. I don't know.
I think there is, but I thought they were on me.
So how are you doing? It's been
a
very long time.
I know. I don't think I've seen you on this continent.
I know. We were realizing it's been like September.
Yeah.
Is that 4 months? I'm
been a long
in my
time.
head. I'm trying to talk and count months in my head.
We'll take it from there. So like September. So we had some awesome tours.
Yes. The tours were fun. I came home like totally never wanting to knit again.
She's all knitted out.
I was knitted out. You can see I'm cured of that though. And then, so I didn't make it to Rhinebeck, but you had Rhinebeck.
Yep, we had Open Farm Day and we had Rhinebeck, and both of those were awesome. And it was like just so many people were excited to be out and about again, which was really cool. So getting to see what everybody was wearing for their masterpieces. So that was great. And then, I don't know, it was so warm here for so much of the fall. It was just sort of seasonally, I don't know, backwards.
It's been very strange. Even like we had snow this morning, it's gone already. And we had like one sizable snowfall. We've had a few more that just come and go. It feels like a very long spring this year instead of
But
winter.
it's been oddly, like, we haven't seen the sun in quite a while.
Yeah.
It's light, so we have that, thank goodness. I don't know how you do it at a much higher latitude, but it hasn't really been sunny.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It's strange. Anyway.
So, I think everybody's all confused.
Talk with Anne and Erin.
Including the sheep. So,
yeah. So we basically are just going to get caught up today with what we've been up to and what is coming up. And we'll have more of a themed thing next time, I guess.
But sometimes it's nice to just kind of, cut loose and knit what you wanted to knit instead of just whatever was like on your list for production sake. So I'm going to start with something that's not knit.
Yes. This is very cool.
So this was my Christmas present from Albrecht.
Look at it. It's a merino.
And let's see this way in the camera here.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
It's huge.
Look at my arm.
It's huge. And I thought it was a rug. She sent me a picture of it. I thought it was a rug. It's actually a cushion cover.
Maybe. It's huge. And Albrecht described it as it's a pocket.
It's a pocket.
It's a pocket, so I can put all my treasures in here.
Ladies, you've been complaining about not having pockets in your clothing.
So
make yourself a pocket.
And like, do I make back straps for it? Like a backpack? Could be luggage. I mean, this would be an awesome pillow. I think you should cushion cover,
just put a big strap and like wear it like a messenger bag.
Yeah, okay. And then hold up that pillow. How does that fit compared to this?
This pillow's huge already.
Kind of curious, like.
Oh, maybe.
That's a pillow
great
for
big
my
pillow from my.
Anyway, but I was just so excited to find this fella. What did we decide? It's almost like a latch hook. Can't take me anywhere. It's almost like a latch hook frame inside it. So
yeah.
But on the inside, it looks exactly the same. So that's some kind of punch, maybe?
So we're not sure what kind of craft this is. If you know, let us know. It is a latch hook fabric that the wool's been worked into. But it's not latch hook.
Because it's kind of the same on both sides. And we decided, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but like the inside looks pretty cool too. Look, he's little merino face. Stealth ram right there.
Sneaky.
So anyway, that was just sorry. It's all over but the
smack me with your pocket.
Okay, so you have something crafty that's not knit?
No. I'm like, wait, do I?
No,
I don't
just stay true to the everything. Okay.
I made some stitch markers lately. If you're a patron of the podcast and you're due gifts, you're getting some stitch markers coming up. But I've pretty much been knitting.
Awesome.
Knitting.
So you're cured.
Some more. Yeah, I'm cured. I mean, it was like I got back from the trips and I didn't want to knit, but really I didn't want to do anything. So I just sort of focused on not doing anything for 3 or 4 days.
Well, if you had a lot going on, which you kind of did, use up all the energy, and then it has to come from somewhere. So recharge.
Yeah. So just filled the mental batteries for a while, and then
what did you do to
got back into knitting? Nothing.
And that worked.
I literally did nothing. Well, I that's not entirely true. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did continue doing things. Really, like what got me back into knitting was when LoveWovember started again, the month that we talk about Celebrate Wool over on Instagram. And I realized that was coming up and just was like, well, we got to do something, right? So I contacted a bunch of people and asked them to contribute to a new website I set up called LoveWovember.com and got a bunch of writers and stuff for that. And then that was a lot of work. And I was sort of like, how hard will it be? Like, it'll be a blog. People to write stuff. Yeah, and they can, and it'll point people to their stuff, and it'll be a great new resource. And and then getting all the pages formatted and everything like that really kicked me back into work mode. So we had that, and then we had the holidays and the yarn stash restash, and here we are.
It was like lily pad, like you have a thing that you go jump on, and then go again, boom.
That's a good analogy. Like one would start to deteriorate, and I'd be like and like jump to the next.
A little bit too much for for all of me to be on this, right. And then I'm falling into the water, so I better jump onto the next one.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be
in general.
Like January was supposed to be like my do nothing month, and then I ended up having to change
nothing to something.
I had an assistant who would help me with some general stuff, and she stopped working, and I had to train a new one. So now I'm training a new assistant. Mm-hmm. And any assistant, once they know their jobs, it's so much better. Like it just makes your life so much easier. But when you're training an assistant, it's twice the work.
Then you have an awesome assistant if it's only twice the work. Yeah. No, really, because think about it. Everything takes twice as long if you're doing and showing, but if you really put the time and effort into, and same thing if you're teaching knitting, right? I mean, teaching someone to do a knit stitch is not twice as long as you doing a knit stitch. Yeah. It's way longer. So if your assistant is doing it in just twice the time, that's wow.
Yeah.
High five. Good assistant.
Good job, assistant. Oh, that was the thing in December. I did the daily vlog with Jana. Well, we opened our wool boxes.
Right, there was a holiday thing in there,
There's a whole, yeah. Yeah, so daily vlogging with Jana over on the Purl Together YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube watching this, hop over to Purl Together and you can see those. I did a yarn box called the Shetland Hogmanay box that we opened all the way to Hogmanay, which is New Year's Eve, December 1st to New Year's Eve. And then Jana ordered a couple boxes that she was opening too. And we would just meet and vlog every day. Jana's a saint. She would do all the editing and stuff for those every day. I just had to show up and try and make her laugh. That was my goal.
She an easy, like good humor rolls easily?
Yeah, she's got a good humor. So it was like, but I felt amazing because, I was making her laugh. And so. Good job. Mission accomplished. So we did that every day. And and then January, like I said, was supposed to be calm. Ended up with a new assistant. So. Yeah, and then I'm off again here soon, so.
And where are you off to?
Next lily pad, right?
Where are you off to next?
I'm going back to Shetland.
Where else?
Shocker. No, we were invited by Jolene, my travel partner that I work with for the tours, to go back for Helly Aa and see what that's like. So.
Which one?
The big one, the real one. I discovered it's like they sort of they sort of call them all Helly Aa, but really, like, they're fire festivals, unless it's the one in Lerwick.
Okay.
Lerwick is the Helly Aa. So we're going for that one, which is always the last Tuesday of January. So we'll be there for that.
That's soon then.
Yeah.
Wow.
The one in Scalloway was just the other night. It was
okay,
Friday.
that's what I was curious about. Like, how does that get organized, and how do you pick your day?
There's 12 of them that go on throughout the islands. Lerwick is the big one. A couple of them overlap on the same weekends. I guess they don't communicate about what dates they're doing them, so they sometimes...
Or it's just the weekend, right?
Well, that's what I've heard is, like, they don't really communicate with each other about when they're going to do it. They pick the date, and then if it overlaps, it overlaps. So, but Scalloway's the first one. Okay. And then I think it's, like, March 31st they're supposed to be done with them. So sometime between then, the local community picks when they're going to do it. So it's a big fire festival. The local people will have different groups that they call squads, and they come up with a skit that they perform in the different community halls in their community. And the big one is Viking themed. They call it the Jarl Squad, and they're the ones who build a boat, a Viking ship, longboat. That's like proper sized, and they spend a year building it, and then they burn it to ashes on the night of the festival
celebration.
So, and I'm like, it keeps you out of trouble. So,
and make a better one next year.
More
practice.
And this time, I mean, it's been they had 2 years off because of the lockdowns, so they should be super. I gotta figure out how
to do this again.
They should be like super awesome boats. Yeah, we don't know how we don't know what we're doing anymore. Please bear with us.
Glass to mouth.
How do drink?
I think it was these really silly movies that my grandfather used to love. The guy like had a drinking problem and he could never like get the glass to his mouth. It didn't matter what he was drinking. It wasn't that he was drunk. It was just that his drinking problem was he couldn't get the glass to his mouth. Yeah. That's grandfather humor. Dad jokes, I guess, on steroids when it's grandpa.
So we have a bunch of stuff that we've been working on, and we figured we would share it with you.
Because we have been knitting.
Yeah. You have some really beautiful things over there.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't know. Do you want to
Well, let's start with Helene.
Do one in one? Yeah.
Okay. So, Helene Dreesen joined us again for more thrumming, this time for these cozy slipper socks, which was amazing to have to walk around and just cushion your feet. And you can see thrums popping out from the inside. And you have a pair of her mittens that you did when we did that last year in the flock. So how did we coordinate this so perfectly?
I know. Look at it.
I was going to bring the green ones.
We just have the same aesthetic.
Wow, that never happened.
And these are from yarn I picked up in Shetland because that was a remote class.
Yes, that's the amazing thing. So Anne I think you were at Wool Week when we did that or something.
I was there. I don't know if Wool Week had started yet, but I was in Shetland. I took the class in Islesborough Community Center in the cafe there.
Really cool place.
And and it was like, oh no, it's coming. I didn't bring any yarn for it. What am I going to do? And so I was
shopping? What else are you going to do?
I just happened to be going out to Silly Sheep Company when I remembered it. So this is Hebridean. And I forget what the blend for my tufts are. But yeah, like they totally coordinate.
Yeah.
So they're not Morehouse Merino. That's a very different feel than Hebridean.
It is.
That is for sure.
So this yarn, what did I catch here? Well, I hope that's not a piece of lunch. Well, I just picked it up off the table. I don't know.
Maybe sheep lunch.
So these Morehouse Merino is the yarn, but then I was at the New England Fibre Festival, and Spinnery Rick was there, and he had the most beautiful. Look at the color in that.
So
nice. This was his Corriedale that I was playing with, that he was mixing in with, and it's still cushy. Yeah. Right, as all wool is. Yeah, it does have a different
It does feel different.
But also, right, on the continuum of soft versus strong, you have to decide where do you want to.
I mean, you can feel. First of all, the Hebridean is a scratchier wool. That is a very strong wool. And this is the natural color that it spins up to.
Gorgeous.
But even the roving, you can feel is a stronger wool than this. I'm going to put my feet in your sock or my hand in your socks. Like, that's nice. Yeah. That's really nice. Yeah. And these are wearable, but these are nice.
And the other part of, the finer, when you use the super fine fibers as the thrumming, right, then they don't stay put as much. Like, you really have to get them felted in before they want to stay put, because otherwise you have little tufts floating around. Yeah. So it all depends on what you want to work on, right, and what you want to work with, and what are you willing to.
Do you wear those around your house on your wood floors? Yeah. And you don't feel like you're gonna die?
Mean slippery?
Yeah.
No. I did discover...
No, I do feel like I'm going to die.
No, I don't feel like I'm going to die. I'm heavy enough to not worry about that. So a couple of different things you can do. Helene suggested there's like these little suede patches that you can get you can sew onto the bottom if you want. I got all super lazy or efficient, you decide, and made a design on the bottom of some with my hot glue gun.
Okay, and that works okay?
Was not slippery.
It doesn't get, hard? I would think it would get hard, and then that would be slippery in a different way.
No, it's
Okay.
hard but not slippery.
Okay.
So far, anyway, but I'm not like the...
Interesting. I'm not a hot
NHS or whatever, whoever would do...
OSHA.
No, ONA.
ONA?
Was it ONA?
I don't know what ONA is.
It was occupational accidents or something. I forget what the... Anyway, if there was a problem at work, where do you go? Anyway, yeah, so...
I go home. If there's a problem at work, I go home.
Wait, don't you have to leave if there's a problem at work when you work at home?
Yeah, I go to a hotel.
Go to the backyard. I'm leaving this house. I'm going outside. Anyway, okay, so matching slippers. Awesome.
Nice. Should I show and tell now?
Yeah.
So one thing I forgot to mention... or I just didn't talk about it really, was that between the tours and when Shetland Wool Week started, Adam and I went to Vienna.
Oh, right.
We went to Austria, which I hadn't ever been to before. It was a new place for us. And have you been to Austria at all?
I have not, and that's where Albert is from. So
yeah,
the closest I've been is Switzerland.
On the way. I was while we were there, I was like, oh, this is where Albert is from. I should have talked to him about this before we came. Anyway.
Have to go back.
Could not find yarn anywhere. Was sort of low-key looking. I mean, it was supposed to be a vacation. And
define low-key looking for yarn.
So I didn't look for any ahead of time.
Okay, so...
I didn't go to Google Maps and plot out where we would be and where yarn stores were so that I could plan to be like, oh, do you mind if I just hop over there real quick?
Okay.
So none of that happened. No premeditated yarn. But I also was sort of... Really, anytime I'm in Europe, I don't know why, I kind of expect to see more yarn stores than I do here. I think just because we tend to be in cities and more of a concentrated population than where we are here in New England. Excuse me. And I just wasn't seeing any at all, which was sad for me because I was hoping to accidentally find some, which I did eventually find some accidentally. There was we went to this really cool castle that I don't remember the name of, but it was up on the side of a mountain above the Danube. And there's no, it wasn't. wrong country, but it was like deep, and then tall on the other side, and it was like gorgeous, and like you're like, this place is amazing. It's so beautiful. And then you're reading all the placards about the men who owned it and how they were torturing people and like
throw them off the cliff, probably.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Like,
I forget. This one had like a place where they could lock the people so that they were out on a platform, basically like a stone platform. And the Danube was like,
so just hang out here and don't fall
80
in.
meters down, and it's Austria, and there's winter, and like don't roll too far when you sleep, kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah, like that kind of, and you're like, it's so beautiful, and it's like it was the perfect way to torture people up here. Oh, okay. So anyway, the good news is that when I got to the gift shop, there was some yarn by someone who I later found out would like gathers the fleeces from her friends who just have small flocks and has it spun up, and then she dyes it. So this is from
lovingly coordinated, and
yeah, they came in. So they came in kits of 2 hanks of each color, and it came with a pattern for a baby blanket that was written in German. So that didn't help me.
Stricken.
So that didn't help me. And I did like the Google Translate, you know.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work really well.
It's like the Spanish patterns, puntos, points, or stitches. So like it just doesn't translate literally.
Right. So. And I don't have a baby in my life or coming into my life.
Why are you gesturing at me?
So I was just gesturing. Okay. You take it how you want to take it. So I made this scarf, and I'm calling it the Vienna scarf.
Of course.
Wien, right? Wien. And it makes W's, right? The chevrons are W's. And this, so it's just a DK. And it's just a simple chevron pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so we found it kind of early in the trip. So I just like worked on this the rest of the time. And then when I was when I was at Shetland Wool Week, I think it came off the needles while I was there because I started another project for the way home. So.
What do we think the breed is?
I can find that out for you afterwards.
More lunch.
I had that information. And so, yeah, like we're picking little bits of former lunch out of it from the sheepie's lunch. So it's really nice. It's not over processed wool. And Der Spindel is her name. But
cool.
If you look for Der Spindel, it's like someone else. Like you have to, I'll put the information down below. For people. And she does like little retreats. You can go visit her and do dyeing retreats and things like that.
Nice.
But she's just a wool advocate there in Austria who's trying to make use of wool.
Lovely.
And it's wonderful. And I was like, oh, yay. So this was my wool from Austria.
Best souvenirs.
Yeah, I love it. So, ta-da! So that was
very good.
What else do you have? You have so many pretty things.
Let's see. Well, we mentioned Open Farm Day, so Amy Snell, the Devious Knitter, did this. It's called A Shot in the Dark, and it's using the magic of vertical stranding. And that means you can carry these colors around the whole project without having to, well, you're carrying them through while you're knitting the whole project, but you don't have to carry them around the entire circle, which is awesome. So she made this in our Glenley. So that was very well done. And I have another version that is this hot pink background with the bright yellow, which matches a shawl we had at Rhinebeck, which was awesome. So, and then, okay, who's been wearing this? Erin, who's blonde hair. It happens. Okay.
Lovely. Can I see the inside of it?
Yeah.
I want to see the inside with the carrying up technique. Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then the magic is all in. Okay, how do you weave all those ends in? But there really aren't that many when you consider what you would need for
one there
for color work. And I think it actually looks kind of neat on its own.
Yeah, you could even wear it that way.
So versatile. So versatile.
So versatile.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, then we had Shetland Wool Week. And the Shetland Wool Week Annual came out. These are little wristlets designed by Wilma Malcolmson. And they are 4 colors each. And they are so fast. I think I can do a pair of these in like 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I did 9 pair of these just using that jar of
your leftovers from
my leftovers from different projects. So some of these are like none of the ones I have here, but I have a few where it's like that's obviously the yarn from this project, and I'm like, oh, they
now you have a coordinating wristlet or whatever.
But the thing, I don't know if you have the same problem I do as a tall person, where sleeves don't quite fit.
Oh, you mean like clothes are made for the rest of the world, which is people who have T-Rex arms?
Yeah, you little T-Rex arm people. I always have an issue where sleeves, this sleeve, this is a long sleeve. My wrist is here. Yeah.
So even
everything's bracelet length on me. I found out that's a thing, bracelet length.
Well, because
it ends above the smallest part of your wrist.
Yes, because you can tell the age of a woman by the length of her sleeve.
I guess.
Well, no, seriously. Like we think about, my grandmother always had.
Yeah.
It may have even been shorter than that. And my mom doesn't like it.
I prefer 3/4 sleeves if I had my druthers.
I usually do 3/4, then I'm like at least meaning that it was that short.
Right, yeah, it was intentional.
I was meaning to. Right, but then I think my mom likes it, kind of at the wrist length. And then I always find that comfortably it's down here for me. And then younger than us will have...
Yeah, they have it like way down.
Down here. And then even like when I'm running.
The thumb
like
holes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that I think is super practical.
I have a really hard time finding ones that have the thumb holes where it's not pulling if I have my thumb in the holes. I think I've been successful in that like 2 times, finding a jacket with thumb holes where it's not like painful to wear it.
So this helps when you...
So anyway, this helps bridge the gap.
I was going to say, this also helps when you golf because they measure from the floor to your wrist. So that's how they size you for golf clubs. So you don't need to have extended golf clubs if you're tall and have long enough arms.
Interesting.
Which is good because that would be a customization. So
anyway, I have long arms. And these I love. Yeah. So...
Me too.
Yeah, a lot of the ladies in my life got these for... Christmas. And they're very quick, and they're, like feather and fan.
Yeah. So there's a beautiful poncho.
And the cool thing about them is if you're thinner, you can block them longer. And if you're got wider wrists like I do, you can block them wider. Or you can just sort of block them gently, and then as it goes on, it just sizes how you want it to. So anyway, love these. And I got through... I think it's sort of refilled at this point, but I think I got through like a third of my remnant jar. I have a huge jar like this, and it was almost full, and then it was like down to there after I finished. Excellent. So that was nice.
Very cool.
I was happy.
There's a poncho that I was eyeballing that has that same. It's
the feather and fan.
Yeah, on the edge. It's got pom poms.
In the Wool Week annual, a lot of people, that's a Rachel Hunter pattern. You should look for that. It's really cool.
I'll just start whipping that up.
She did it with all natural, natural sheepy colors.
Might have swatched our 2-strand on it.
Nice. So it's a like white and then all the different natural browns in a feather and fan at the bottom, and then she put pom poms at the bends.
Very cool.
It's very cute.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do one?
I was thinking about it, and I'm trying to stage my timing of when I've got projects going and deadlines versus when do I actually have time to sit and do this.
I'm the same way.
Like this one's a test knit that I'm almost done with.
Look, hold that up because that is so cute.
So there are sleeves coming in the back. Yes, I'm a fan of 2 at a time. Otherwise, they will end up different lengths or not get done. And it is meant to be a sweater with a little bit of negative ease. So yes, believe it or not, it does fit me, because everyone I've held this up to so far is like, who's that for? And I say, me. And they're like, no, it will never fit you. I'm like, okay.
And then you punch them.
No. I've been trying to keep my hands in knitting shape and
no breaking knuckles.
No breaking knuckles, exactly. So anyway, but you do notice I use 2 different bind off techniques as part of a class, and that's
okay.
So one is noticeably shorter,
shorter
than the other. Well, here you might have to generate or gesture. Oh, yeah.
I'll hold you gesture.
Okay, maybe back a little bit.
Okay.
So if I line them up at the bottom here, and see, this is why I can never be an influencer, because I'm so real that I still have my ends hanging out. You can see that one is significantly longer than the other because of the bind off. So once I block it, I'll take a peek at that and see, does that really matter once the buttons are on and everything?
Yeah.
But that was the experiment to show, as I was demonstrating for someone, how the bind-off method makes a difference, particularly in ribbing, because it just wants to suck it back in, which is also why ribbing is such an awesome thing if you want to avoid waist shaping, because it'll just do it by itself. So anyway, it still stretches, so I don't think that'll be an issue, but if it is, because this is all natural wool, I can just pull it out, splice it back together, and keep on going, even if I cut it too short. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
perfect.
Awesomeness.
Excellent.
So that is a Vanessa Smith test knit, which will be out in early February.
Nice.
So knitting a cardigan.
Beautiful.
So look
and do you know the color offhand?
This is
because people are going to ask.
Morehouse Merino 2-ply sport in Pacific, and I swatched it also in 2-strand. I think it's gorgeous in 2-strand. I might have to do another one. She said you need applied yarn. That was her requirement. So I followed her requirement, and I just loved it so much in our stranded yarn. I'm sure she just wanted construction of not a single, and ours looks like a single, so that's why she said plied, and stranded wasn't even part of the equation. But I just was really, really excited about how it popped. So anyway,
Nice.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What else do I have? Oh, I have this one. So we had the New England Fibre Festival that came up.
Yes.
And I bought some fun buttons while we were there.
Yeah.
But then also, like, ages ago when I saw you, probably in the spring, you gave me some of this yarn, which is the Morehouse Featherlight. Yeah. And I thought, I need to do something with this. And so I made this cowl. Sorry if I scared anyone.
That's
using
awesome.
These buttons. So the buttons are made by a women's cooperative in Africa. And it had one little black sheep, and so that's why I got it, because I thought that was so cute.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, put it on, because I don't think I'm done with this design yet. Because look at it.
No, Victorian. That's the word that I need.
Victorian.
Wait, no, sheep in the front?
I think it's like Elizabethan, like the whole. So this is actually
like my
the
dog with
second
a cone.
time. This is the second time I've knit it, because the first time I knit it, I didn't do increases after the, what is this called? Ribbing. So then when you do then when you did all the cabling, it like pulled in really tight. So it looked like more like this, like just like full on fluff. Like it was like whoosh.
It'd probably fit under my coat even better.
Yeah,
like
but it looked,
but
it was very like this.
This is limited edition yarn. You better get this out the door.
Very rough.
It.
So I don't know if I love the sizing of it. I think I want to try it again and do it a little bit shorter, like, so it's under your neck at least. And then also maybe a little tighter. But I don't know. What do you guys
vote.
think? Like, would you wear it like this? Because the other thing is you can open up these buttons. Here, you can open up the buttons and you can have it like sit lower, like that way. So do I just stop and write this up as a pattern?
Yeah, and then you can make the next one smaller.
And
that's another pattern.
Yeah.
I can't do this backwards.
I'm going to eventually, my hope is to do this as a pattern too.
Oh, you made that one up?
Yeah, I made this one up. And then do that as a pattern. And then I have 2 hats that I'm working on too. But my problem is I love doing the knitting. Like I'm I am happy to just figure out a knitting thing now. I'm not to sweater part yet, but a cowl or a scarf or a hat. Happy to just sit down and do it. The thing I don't like is writing the pattern. Oh, I don't like writing that up.
How cool would it be? I think I was talking with Amy Snell about this, of like, if you have a design in your head and you could just, do this, cast on this many stitches and then knit this much for this and then do these other things, and then how much faster could you get your design done and you wouldn't be stuck by the part that you don't like to do? So, okay, you just dictate this to me once I get home. Let's see what we come up with.
Well, I have the Face the Music Monday thing that I do on Instagram every Monday, where you're supposed to pull something out of your unfinished object pile and just work on it for one day. Because a lot of times, sometimes we're just sick of working on something. Yeah. Or we get to a point where it's like, I just don't want to write the pattern. And I think that's probably going to be my thing. Okay. Maybe once a month is where I just, instead of actually working on a project, I grab one of these things where I have all the notes written and the project's done, and I just make myself write the pattern. So anyway.
I think it's awesome. Do you have a name for it?
I wrote one on my notes. So this one was inspired by WoveWovember and the twisting paths of wool.
Wonderful.
And you have the sheep buttons and etc. And it's a wonderful natural wool yarn from Morehouse. That's your Featherlight, right? Featherlight, which was wonderful to work with. Aptly named.
Limited edition. I have 2 bookshelves full.
I was noticing that on the website the other day. I went to look to see what other colors. There's not very many color ones.
They're not all on there at the moment. I was reorganizing some stuff and taking some new photographs because somehow we got interrupted in the middle of that. Anyway, but as we get more things spun, but also I'm thinking, what do we have that's similar to try this in? And I'm kind of wondering what the
2 or 3
sliver
strand the sliver probably would be wonderful.
Look like in this too for a bunch more colors. So when you're ready for a test.
Okay. I'll let you know.
All right.
If you love this and love this color,
I keep putting it the wrong side.
Though you may want to go grab 2. You'll need 2 hanks.
All right. Better set some aside.
Yeah. Okay, your turn.
Okay, so cowling it up.
Back to brioche.
Yeah, so playing with this. So Hans, who's one of our customers, was teaching brioche at Rhinebeck, so she's having me test this.
That is gorgeous.
Isn't that pretty cool?
Put it closer. Look how pretty that is.
So super excited to be trying that out and the different techniques of, the winding pathways in and out, which is just very different than so much of the brioche that I see out there. And of course the 3-strand is just so fluffy. It just wants to be super this project. Squish. Yeah. So, and then the backside also
that looks
pretty
cool
not
too.
In the same version, but I'm curious to see how much yarn it takes because I might be able to get a second version, in the opposite out of it, which would be really neat. So shout out to California. Again.
Okay. I am working on right now. This is the Ripples sweater designed by Hilly Sluis.
Okay.
In Uredale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
pretty blues and greens.
Very, 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 very beginner level Bohus knitting sweater.
What does that mean?
So Bohus knitting, I talk about it on the most recent episode of the podcast.
Okay. You have to go listen.
Yep. It's coming out tonight.
So you can't even listen yet.
Can't listen to it yet. By the time this is out, you will have access to it. Episode 92. So Bohus knitting in the 1930s, everyone was in depression, economic depression. So there were some ladies in Sweden, in Bohusland, who went to the governor's wife and said, we need help setting up some sort of cottage industry so that we can make money at home. And so she started a knitting cooperative for the ladies to join. And at first they were just doing like socks and mittens. And she was designing the patterns and things. And then they brought in, I think there was 6 total designers that they had. Mm-hmm. One of them actually was the first one to design a yoke sweater. Mm-hmm. So that's where we get yoke sweaters from, is Bohus knitting. But they did colorwork knitting that involved, because that area no longer had like a local knitting tradition that was still in effect. Like there weren't people knitting in that area who were carrying on a knitting tradition. Like Sweden and but that area didn't. Mm-hmm. So they developed colorwork knitting technique that also included slip stitches and purls. And not only that, but they had some yarn spun up with Angora, wool and Angora. And so you would have...
Rabbit or goat?
I believe goat. You would have the yoke would have all this color work on it, and it might have like up to 13 colors, they were saying, in the yoke. And then because you were purling, that brings the color up a little bit from the row below, and also slip stitching obviously brings the color up. And because it was sort of Angora-y as well,
have a haze on it,
it would be like hazy and all these colors, and it was like super blendy. And so for like 20 years it was like huge, like they were like guarding their patterns, and but it was like going to Hollywood. Like, who's the one who married the prince in Monaco?
Oh, Grace
Kelly. Grace Kelly wore a lot of them and things like that. So very, very popular, like through the 50s. And then it got to the point where I was reading about this the other day as I was preparing for the podcast. And it was like, first of all, some of the women, like they were well off enough they didn't have to knit for production anymore. So they stopped. And then for other women, they'd gotten so complicated that they were like, I don't want to do this anymore.
This is my magnum opus, right?
Yeah. So they're just like, I'm done. So it sort of, so by like, I want to say by the end of the 50s, it really wasn't being done anymore. And it really didn't, it just sort of was like this blip, right? And then in the 90s, they did, the local museum there did an exhibition about it. And with the people in the 2000s, people got interested in knitting again, sort of worldwide. And so there were like 5 or 6 books done about it. People got back into it. And those books are still out there. A lot of them are out of print. One's Poems of Color, I want to say. I'll put it down below. I'll put some links to some of the books down below that still talk about it. You can find them. They're out of print, but you can still find them. And they're still, like, if you go to Ravelry and search for Bohus knitting and, put knitting and sweater or hat or gloves or whatever, there's hundreds. It's not an overwhelming number of patterns. There are literally hundreds of patterns. It's not like Ravelry where you go and you're like,
best of 7,492.
Yeah, exactly. There are hundreds of patterns in Bohus knitting. Yeah, that are available.
That'd be a good afternoon scroll.
Yeah,
awesome
for sure.
And you know what you're making me think of? When I was little, there was this book that Green Mountain Spinnery put out. It was their stained glass sweater and their mountain mohair, and it was just all kinds of, I don't even remember if it was mosaic or what. I got the book and I never got around to knitting it. And just with the mohair haze, it kind of had the colors softly blending together. It was really beautiful. I just remember like this most beautiful lady with the most beautiful sweater modeling it.
Yeah. That is a fun yarn to use. I just finished working with that actually for their Sanderling cardigan.
Oh,
I talked about that on this latest episode.
Isn't that also in this colorway?
It's not quite as corally. It's more like this one, a little redder than this.
And it's like this color is just everywhere because I am also auditioning a potential for our Rhinebeck sweater this year. That is in geranium. So,
nice.
Yeah. But speaking of, not that I want to give this up, so we'll talk more about this later.
It's getting warm in here.
No, I wanted to show this off because this is called Lionberry, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and
I so want to get that on my needles.
And play with your yarn and needle size, and you can have whatever amazing combination you want to come up with. I was traveling, so I brought 2 ounces of Morehouse lace, which is a light fingering weight, and look at the different textures in here.
So pretty.
So you can see just the chevrons with knit pearls, then the lace, different versions of that, and you could just keep on adding rows because the repeats are that, say,
straightforward.
Yeah. And then it has a picot edge. So we started into the conversation of, what does that mean? And I don't really know how to do that. And it's an edging where you're casting on a little bit and then binding off in order to make sort of an embellishment without having to sew something on
picot
later. Yeah. So that led to, hey, we need to learn more about picot. What does that mean? So this
is why we have this cushion from earlier.
Right. Flock project, because
I wanted you to be able to see the details on this.
This is called Let It Snowflake.
Oh no.
Snowflake's falling. It is the season.
Here, I'll just tilt it a little bit. There you go.
Anyway, so what's so amazing about this, Elena, thank you for this brilliant design. 6 rounds of knitting, and then the last round does the edge of the entire thing. So you knit and you have this tiny little circle with some yarn overs, and then I love that this is like a crown on your snowman, like a flower crown almost, and then this becomes a tree, and then I start thinking like, oh, we could do a garland of trees and snowmen next year. Okay, got a little ahead of myself. But this was a fantastic class, and all the videos are in the flock. So if you want to learn picot, just with some leftover yarn and whatever size needles go best with it. I did a lace one, and I brought it to Albrecht, and he promptly hung it on his tree, which was really cool. So, and then we were talking about different ways of stiffening it, which I haven't done to this one yet, but you could use clothing starch, or my mom she actually pulled me over to the Christmas tree and pulled out one and said, here, your grandmother used to crochet these when you were small, and then she would water down some Elmer's glue.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and then that's how she made it. So those are still on my parents' Christmas tree.
And they're still stiff?
Yes, from that many years ago. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. Just kidding. But yes.
Very cool.
So anyway, that was brilliant. And what it came out of it was that starting a project from the center on double pointed needles is a sticking point for a lot of people, no pun intended. Like, that's something that's so super fiddly. If we see that, we don't want to try it. And I would highly encourage you to give this a go on a small project where the stakes are not high. I mean, I don't think that took 25 yards of yarn. Mm-hmm. Use a good size needle and good size yarn. So use a worsted weight, use a bulky, and then the needles that go along with it, like 6-7 for the worsted weight. Try 10.5, 11 for the bulky. And I think you will find that's a bunch, sturdier than trying to do with a fingering or a lace.
Yeah.
And then getting comfortable with that is such an important part of your knitting toolbox because it means you can do some really awesome things later on. So this, for instance, is going to be next flock project. This
cool
purse
is that?
by Endor, who goes by Mama's Teddy Bear.
Look at that.
And this thing fits my monster cell phone. It was knit. You can have either a sport-ish weight yarn or a worsted. You could do a fingering version if you wanted. I chose our 2-strand sport. And yes, black, because it was such a pretty background. She's got one that on her sample that is red, yellow, and blue. And then I'm going to line it and put a zipper on it too. So it'll have a little bit of extra on there.
Nice.
But to teach that, I was actually knitting this today, just inspiration struck of what if we did a coaster that had that technique around the outside. So that's a welt. So that's why this is still wet, because when I got here, I asked Anne if I could use her bathroom. Oh yeah, sure, Erin. I needed to block it. Because what else do you do in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay. And what I was playing with, because that center is so fiddly for so many people, I have done a square.
Interesting.
That allows us to pick up stitches around the outside. And then the hard part is doing the math to make sure that you have enough, to actually make a circle. And when that dries, I think it'll be in pretty good shape. But still a little damp.
You can just pin it out a little more.
Yeah.
Where it needs to be. Yeah.
And but I will also do a version that is a circle. But I'm like, you know what? That we can do in an hour and a half. No biggie, with a little bit of homework. And get the welt done, because that is a really cool technique that until I started working on this purse, I did not have that on my radar. And I think it's just so cool.
There's so much that you can do once you're comfortable with that too. Yeah. There's a lot of hats that start top down. That are like really Irene, interesting hats.
Like Irene's hat from Keepers of the Sheep.
Keepers of the Sheep. And the cool thing about starting the hat that way with Irene's technique is that she teaches you how you can size a hat to fit the person perfectly, but you have to do it top down. So...
And also, if if you've got one of those skeins, can I grab one of these skeins?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're
where it's random,
meant for anything. So here's a skein that Anne has just on her desk, and I don't know how much yarn this is.
And it's a partial skein, so I don't even know how much. I have the label, but I don't know how much is actually there.
So if you start from the brim up, you'll end up running out at some point. But if you start from the top down, you will be able to get most of a hat, if not all of a hat. You could end up... if you're not increasing, or you're increasing at a smaller rate, right? That could be a child's hat, but the whole thing gets done, as opposed to if you start as an adult hat, run out, and then rip it all out to make a child's hat, and you just keep trying. But if you start from the top down,
Well, I did that. I did Irene's technique for a hat for my father for Christmas this year. Again, using random balls of yarn that I didn't know the length of. And when I started at the top in a white, and as I went down, I was like, I'm not going to have enough to finish. So I did some color work with a gray.
Perfect.
And that allowed me to finish the hat to the right length. So
I feel like I'm out of uniform, and this way you also get to see these little curly bits at the end, because they're the best part.
The curly bits are very cool. I'm just enjoying having this big squishy pillow.
I know, and I still have the pocket.
You still have the pocket. We have our little comfort things.
That I didn't even have to make. Someone else did this in this brilliant technique.
I really love that snowflake, though.
Yeah.
I want to do a bunch of that.
Need more of them.
This is such a perfect little, again, like the wristlets, right? We all need just these little go-to projects to use up the last bits of yarn, I think.
And so that's also a free pattern on Ravelry. And what I was finding from the class attendees was just really getting comfortable with the double pointed. So that was a big focus on it. And the videos are all in the flock. So if you want to join up for a month, give it a go. That's waiting for you. And then also how different people present different instructions in patterns, depending on where you were from, how you learn to knit. You've heard us talk about, can you follow a sweater pattern on one page and make a sweater pattern versus, I think this one is 16 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautifully laid out. It's like a magazine article, and it's also 16 pages.
Right.
So that is, I think, one end of the spectrum to the other. And if you can get comfortable with what are the things that you look for in different patterns to know, how do I do this if it's not all written out for me all the way through? Wow, can you expand your sort of wish list because, hey, I can do all these things. And that's what we're there for. If you need a hand deciphering something, we did it.
Because you do kindly sponsor the podcast, the Morehouse Merino Flock
You're very
sponsors the
welcome.
podcast. Thank you. And so I always have a little thing in the middle where I talk about my sponsors. And I was like, I wonder how many projects there are in the Morehouse Merino Flock. There's over 3 dozen.
Go
at
us.
this point. I was like, holy cow, there's a lot of help on the flock at this point. Like all kinds of different things too, from sweaters to snowflakes.
And they just upgraded the platform, so I had to learn my way around that again. But
it wasn't just me.
No.
Because it had been a while since I logged in. I was like, am I forgetting how this works? What is happening?
Yeah. So the positive thing of that is, it was like when they rearranged the grocery store, and I think I've hit that age.
Yeah, you're like, where's the olives? Where did they go?
Yeah, I'm like, where's the coffee? Shout out to Terry when he was giving my car an oil change. She's like, yeah, you don't mess with where you put my coffee. You find my coffee. But yeah, same thing. Like, this was so efficient. I appreciate the shopping experience, knowing where everything is, and now I have to figure it out all over again, right? What? Anyway, but the neat thing about this was now I can group them by categories. So, like, there's things for the home, or if you want to try a hat version, like, there's, here's the hats to pick from. So, I'm going to figure out how do we put keywords in there so that we know techniques. And the search function is amazing. Like, if you type birthday, you'll see whoever's been wished a birthday.
Oh.
So it works so much better than so many other platforms that I've been on for that.
Awesome.
So, anywho.
Excellent. So, yeah, if you haven't checked out the Morehouse Merino Flock group,
it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool. And people are so positive there. And it's knitting social media without the ads, without the politics. It's just low key.
And
go talk about your knitting. Go cheer other people on. It's
and
great.
Learning, because we're playing with so many different techniques that you get to practice in a. As my dad always says, low stress. Low stress.
Low stress.
That's what we need. We need
more
of
low stress.
Less
That's
stress. We need more of less stress.
Whew. That's this year. I'm aiming for lower stress. Lower stress. Relax. Still do things, but
yes,
not as frantic, not as frenetic, not frantic, frenetic.
So I'm trying to get these things all finished up because our next stop, where you're going to get to shop at Morehouse in person, is Vogue Knitting Live in New York City.
Ooh, in February, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Starts the 10th.
I know quite a few of you are coming to that
through the
this
12th.
year.
So come by. Are you coming? You're going to be in a different continent.
I'm going to be in Wales.
Yeah. Bummer for all of us.
So, sorry, guys.
We'd love to be in Wales, right? And at the same time,
I'm very excited to go. This was the trip that I had all planned, was ready to go on, and then the lockdown started. And it was just supposed to be a 2-week lockdown, so it's going to be fine because it was 3 weeks away. And then they were like, no, we're extending. And I was like, oh.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
anyway.
then I better run you down the rest of the calendar, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Because then, April, I'm hoping we have lambs for my birthday. It should be the beginning of April.
Oh, lambs. We get to do another lamb episode.
And then, the 22nd of April, is Dutchess County Sheep and Wool Growers' tentative date for the farm tours. So that would be an open farm day. And then the last Saturday in April, which I believe is the 29th this year. We should double check that. Yeah.
I'll put all the dates and links down below.
Because I'm trying to do this from a, overtaxed memory.
Yeah.
Which is the Connecticut Sheep and Wool Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's where that guy kept getting stopped and asked if he was the podcaster's husband, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to be everything you've named so far. I cannot go to.
Well, we'll keep going. So, next is Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, which is the first weekend in May.
Yep, can't go to that this year either. Keep going.
I'm tired.
I'm sorry.
Now got a couple thousand miles on my vehicles to do that.
I'm too. I am just going to be different places.
I know. It's the opposite directions. Okay, I'll see you on another continent.
I know.
In 6 months.
I mean, we will still overlap here. I just won't be here for any of those events that you listed. So I'll be gone, like I said, going to Shetland for Helly Aa, and then I'm going to have my Wales trip. That part's going to be on my own. Just going around Wales. Very excited.
You, yourself, and
me.
Whatever. Very cool.
And then mid-April to mid-May is the first set of tours for this year. So I'll be gone for that. And then the family's going to come to Shetland.
Wow.
The whole family is going to come to Shetland, and then we're going to go down to mainland Scotland. We're sort of splitting a holiday.
Nice.
So very excited about that. The kids haven't been at all yet, so that's pretty exciting. And then before that though, in March I will be teaching online.
Oh yes,
the Fairy Cowl with Vivica Velupulai of Uradale Farm. She does, it's 2-hour sessions. The first session, we get started on it and we get as far as learning how to do Fair Isle. It is a very basic Fair Isle class for people who have not done Fair Isle. If you are confident in your Fair Isle, there will be some tricks and tips that you will pick up. If you are an expert Fair Isler, you might know everything already. But the rest of that session is Vivica talking about organic wool raising and production that they do. They raise the wool in Uradale. It's spun up and everything on the mainland. But so they talk about that. The second one, we'll talk about how to finish it off. We'll talk about weaving in ends, things like that. And then I will give you a tip on how, see, this is the beginning of the round. And you can see that weird jog there.
That's pretty not weird, though, for a jog of Fair Isle.
Yeah, because I'm pretty good. But
no, but usually that's way more obvious.
Because this pattern has 2 plain rows above and below it, I will show you a way to rewrite that so that it just doesn't have that weird jog.
Awesome.
So there's lots of different ways that you can sort of hide the jog. This is a way that often doesn't get talked about because you really do need to have 2 plain on each side. So for this project, I will show you how to do that without that jog.
Nice.
So that'll be in March, 2 Saturdays in March.
Cool. And I was just going to say, flying over top, I was really impressed with how green Fair Isle was. And then I went to the livestock auction when I was in Lerwick. And it was amazing to see the condition of the different sheep, just when there's a lot more pasture, how much bigger they grow in the same amount of time compared to if they're eating seaweed. So me with my American diet, how much faster I've grown. Some of my friends who are maybe more judicious with what they partake in, shall we say. And it's amazing. And like the contrast though in the wool business is always the sheep that eat really well, right, grow and put on muscle, but their wool is usually not as fine. And then the ones that don't get the same level of nutrition have amazing fleeces. And sometimes it's even just the smaller, the slighter framed, just more efficient, growers that have some pretty amazing fleeces. So that was really cool to see.
Interesting.
In
you could
person
visually notice that.
Yeah. Well, it's like you would maybe come in if you weren't used to looking at sheep and like, oh, those are bigger than those.Ey're older. But if you spend a little bit more time with it, I'm a nerd. Okay, who goes to the auction?
I like listening to the wool talk, learning things.
Well, and then the tax attorney was all like, "You went to the auction?" Like, yeah, that's a business trip. Like, yeah.
Nice.
I was doing the conversion. Nice. Well, no. Like I was actually looking at the stock. It was beautiful. I was really excited to see. So
yeah,
okay, good memories.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you have coming up that you want to throw out at people?
Those are the big things. So we've got the February flock class, which end of January, beginning of February. We're gonna do welts, and then we're gonna do it's called on the spot, right? The Strength Within. It's this beautiful shawl. I'm testing it right now in Morehouse Gator. Nice. And the reason that it's wrapped around like this is I'm doing 2 pieces of it. Ooh. Because it's such a beautiful piece that I thought, how cool would it be if it turned into a poncho?
Oh, interesting.
Because some of us love shawls and some of us would rather not have to fiddle with them, a la our intro, right? But how cool would it be if you figure out how to make it into a poncho?
Right.
And then you have a front and a back that you start knitting and then just you're going in the round. So that's my latest brain twister.
Yeah. Because why just knit something?
Right.
And you can play with it.
Right.
A little bit. Awesome.
Well, it's so cool when you can figure out how to make the yarn do the things, right?
Yeah.
Like snowflakes.
So I am currently planning, in addition to the upcoming class, The Shetland Hogmanay box was very well received this year, and so I'm working on the next one already.
Wow. For when? I mean, because you shipped it, late November?
Some people, if they were overseas, people got it shipped in October, and then everybody else got it shipped in November. But the sales are in the springtime, so we know what to plan for. But I'm working with one Shetland-born and raised designer. She's designing one project to use all the yarns. And there will still be yarns from multiple makers, but we have a plan for them all to be in one large project. So the information about that and stuff should come out like end of February, early March, and then sales will happen. And I'm going to do more boxes this year. Last year there were 50 units. We're going to aim for 80 this time. And we'll see how that goes.
Cool.
So my dining room to the side here was like ground zero for like 3 months. My family, I mean, it was good that no one was sort of visiting people and stuff because we could not use that room. It was just full of yarn and
cozier
boxes.
In the kitchen.
Yeah.
Could have put them to work.
Yeah. Come over. Come over, I'll feed you. But you're going to pack 50 balls of yarn.
Well, we have to clear off the table, so everybody grab one. One ball per box. Yes. Okay, good. We're done.
Oh, gosh.
Now you can set the table.
Yeah, we have a dining room table where if you pull out all the things and everything, you can seat 12 around it. And I was like, oh, that'll be plenty enough for 50 boxes. No, it wasn't. I could fit, I think, 35 or 38 boxes. And then the rest were just like around the perimeter of
couch,
the room.
Side chairs, sideboard.
It was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah. Oh, and also it's going to be 2 different colorways this time too that you'll get to pick from.
Why just knit something?
Why just
pack
sell
something.
A box of yarn when you can complicate it dramatically? So watch for that. Okay. I think we're caught up. I think we are caught up.
I know, and we get some pretty amazing knitting here in the meantime.
And I did like 2 rounds on my big sweater.
Excellent.
So awesome. So we'll come back. We'll aim to be back next month. Towards the end of the month, probably. This will be end of the month, January anyway, so that'll work out.
Good. Well, hope to see you all at Vogue.
Bye.